But while they're catching their breath, yes, exactly, Graham. In fact, Woolworths has just launched a healthy living hub online. And this is where you can find recipes, meal plans, and also expert advice. I think something that we're always seeking for when it comes to food. Now, here to inspire us this morning, Cindy Chen is again in our studio. She's giving us some advice on our overall well-being. But today we're specifically talking about lactose intolerance and also cow's milk allergies. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ilana.
I see all kinds of products and I definitely just want to get into this. I mean, lactose intolerance, what is it?
Well, basically, it's a deficiency of the digestive enzyme lactase, which is usually used to break up lactose into the simpler sugars, galactose and glucose. And with lactose intolerance, you don't have enough of this enzyme, which means that you have a buildup of lactose in the gut with all sorts of unwanted side effects.
What are the symptoms of someone who is lactose intolerant?
So basically what happens in the gut is there's this excess buildup of lactose relying around, and the bacteria ferment the lactose. There's a release of gases, and all sorts of unwanted side effects like bloating, distension, cramping, and diarrhea would then be your typical symptoms of lactose intolerance.
Is it a permanent condition?
It depends on the cause. So if it's a primary cause, which is genetically related, then yes, probably something that's permanent. But typically in children, you'd see after they have a bout of gastroenteritis, they might develop a bit of lactose intolerance, which would typically resolve in about 4 to 5 weeks.
Now that we know what it is, what causes it? What causes lactose intolerance?
We actually don't know. Well, primarily it's a deficiency in the enzyme.
Right.
But if there's a genetic cause, then obviously it's heritage or genes. And then if it's a bug that then elicits that response, then that would be the secondary cause.
How can one treat it and overcome it?
Well, the easiest is to actually just eliminate or reduce the amount of lactose in your diet. And there are lots of dairy milk or cow milk alternatives, which you can see on display here. But they are actually, depending on the individual tolerance, some people can actually tolerate small amounts of lactose. So you might actually be able to put a bit of milk in your tea and coffee, or have a bit of goat cheese or mature cheddar in your diet. But the best is just to test it on an individual basis. And then if you can't tolerate that, or if you just need a bit of more variety in your diet, then go for something like a plant-derived alternative, which is almond, oat, rice, soya, any of these that you see just on display here.
Now we're talking about lactose intolerance. If you've just joined us, Cindy Chen is in our studio. But I'm wondering, is it the same, cow's milk allergies and lactose intolerance?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and something that we often confuse. They're definitely not the same. Cow's milk allergy is an immune response to the protein that's found in cow's milk, whereas lactose intolerance is simply a deficiency of the lactase enzyme. So a lactose-free product will still contain all the cow's milk protein allergens. So if you have cow's milk allergen, if you are allergic to cow's milk, don't drink lactose-free products, because they will still contain the cow's milk allergen.
Right.
But you can obviously use your dairy-free alternatives, which are
right here.
Yeah.
Cindy, this is exciting stuff. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, if you think that it's hard to remember or even hard to shop for these alternatives, we're talking here specifically about lactose-free food, or even when you have a cow's milk allergy, it really isn't that hard. In fact, while Cindy and I have been chatting away, there is a dairy alternative breakfast being whipped up right here with Claire. Morning, Claire. You are very busy in this kitchen this morning. What are you busy with?
Indeed. So we're making a sweet quinoa, almost like a porridge, that we're going to use our almond drink to add all that yummy goodness to it.
Now, I said dairy alternative. How do we, alternate it? What have you used?
So for someone who can't drink dairy,
yes,
someone who can drink dairy would use milk, but otherwise we're going to use our almond drink.
Milk. Okay, I see what you mean.
So,
all right. So how do we get started?
So what we've done is we've poached our pears in a delicious tea, which is a cinnamon and apple infused tea. So we just let those cook nice and slowly and really suck up all that flavor. Delicious. And then while that's all happening, we move on to our sweet quinoa. I'm calling it a porridge.
Okay.
So we've heated up our almond drink, and we're just going to add some of the quinoa to it. Let's say 2 cups of almond drink and probably about 1/3 of this quinoa. Just sprinkle that in there, and it's going to slowly cook.
I never know with quinoa. How long do you cook it for?
Really just until the grains have puffed up nicely. They're tender. Right. Depending on the amount you're cooking, will take a certain period of time, but really just look for that doneness, that's tender grain.
And this breakfast this morning, how many people are you making it for?
for you and me.
I love that. Okay.
So that's
will
going to
cook
cook
through.
off slowly, and then we kind of end up with something like this, and that's been cooking for roughly 15 minutes. See how it's just all soft and beautiful, and just has really soaked
what you
up
mean
all
by it
that
becomes puffy,
almond
yeah.
drink. And then we added a cinnamon stick to that to again add some gorgeous flavors and just to accentuate that cinnamon in the tea. And then we just sprinkled it with a little bit of this delicious brown sugar, sweetening it up a little bit. And that's it, eh?
Okay, so you stir it
So
around.
easy.
What do you do with your porridge, like you call it? What happens next?
So what we do, we're just going to serve it up, just into a nice big bowl. You and me are going to share one. And then I'm going to put a little bit more of our almond drink in there just because I typically in a porridge, I like mine a little bit more milky.
Right.
Let's add some of that in there. Pour that over.
Oh, it's so steaming hot and beautiful. What
So
do we
it's-
do with the pears?
So what we do is we just add that to it, just because it's nice to have a bit of fruit in the morning with your...
I have to say that she
Sweet
cooled down
quinoa?
her pears first before she stuck
Yes,
her hand in
indeed.
that.
No, yes. So with the pears, what we've done is we've cooked them slowly, and then, like you say, we let it cool down in the pot, in the liquid. I don't have magic fingers.
No, don't try it at home either. Well, our keyword for this morning is Woolworths. Woolworths to 33728 to make this beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to call it a dairy alternative porridge. Well, if you want to see how Claire got to this beautiful point, have a look at this.
Simmer almond drink. Add quinoa, then bring to the boil. Simmer for 10 minutes, then add sugar and cinnamon. Continue to cook until quinoa is cooked through. Heat water, tea bags and sugar, then add vanilla pod. Add pears and simmer until tender. Leave to cool in the poaching liquid. Serve quinoa with poached pears and cinnamon sugar. For the full recipe, visit the Espresso Morning Show Facebook page or log on to www.expressoshow.com. SMS the keyword Woolworths to 33728 to receive the shopping list on your phone. Click on the link provided to view the recipe on our Mobi site. SMSs cost R1.50, no free SMSs, T's and C's apply.
Our keyword for this morning, Woolworths to 33728 to recreate this beautiful recipe. Claire's sprinkling some cinnamon
sugar
over it because that's how she loves it. Dairy alternatives, that's what we're talking about this morning. In fact, just before this, our nutritional expert, Sidish, we were talking about dairy replacements, and you can find out more information and even recipes on woolworths.co.za/healthy living. So make sure to visit that website, especially if you want more information. I think it was
And
very
this recipe's actually there. You can find it on that website as
Oh,
well.
okay. Well, you did really well. It smells amazing. I think it's time for breakfast. I'm going dairy-free today. Katlego Mabue, what you got?